What's going on, y'all? It's Tone Space. Now, I don't do this often, but something like this, I just felt obligated nearly to do this, and that's give, my review of the third in the trilogy of the Transformers War for Cybertron, and it's entitled Kingdom. For the, little backstory, Netflix has released a three-part trilogy. Each part contains 6 episodes. The first one was Transformers War for Cybertron Siege. The second was Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise. And the third and final, which premiered today, July 29th, is Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom. And I gotta tell you, it was official. It's amazing. The joint is dope. And me being like an enthusiast of Transformers, the old to the new and everything in between, I felt like, it's a good idea to just give my input. Now, first, I would like to say, or one of the big driving forces that just make this series so fly, right, in my opinion, is that it sticks heavily to the original Generation 1 story. It does, have a hybrid of a few other things, like the main storyline for this third and final part of the series is finding the Allspark, which is, the key to life of all techno-organic or techno-sentient beings, the Transformers, if you will. Now, that was not part of the Generation 1, but as the story evolved over the years and, movies, the big screen movies came out and remixes of series, Beast Wars and such, they started talking about the spark as being like the soul or the spirit of the Transformers, and then the Allspark being the all-encompassing, the till all are one part of the spark. You know what I mean? So the series did a very good job of combining the original G1 story, and as you could see, the original G1 look. I got the trailer just, on loop right there, so you could get a good idea of what it all looks like, right? It combines the original story, the original look, with a few of the new elements, and they interweave it masterfully together, in my personal opinion. To me, it's a timeline going from the original Generation 1 first episode when they're on Cybertron, and even before, like the war on Cybertron and stuff like that, all the way into when they come to Earth. But then they were able to interweave the Beast Wars situation, the Maximals and Predacons, and it's amazing. So first, I would like to say, if anyone has, even if you've watched Siege and Earthrise, I do suggest that you hit up YouTube, find like a summary, because the story is very complicated. There's a lot of timeline things going on, time shifts and dead universes and all types of elaborate stuff in the story. I didn't do it. As soon as I saw that today this thing was out, I totally forgot this thing dropped today, but I just went hard body and went to it immediately. But anyone else, cool your jets a little bit and do watch like a summary of the Siege story and the Earthrise story. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube, and then fire this joint up and just watch it all the way through. You're going to love it. I'm going to give it on a 1 to 10. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And the only matter of fact, a 9.5 out of 10, and I will go into what the 0.5 is, and it's very petty, if you will. It's not a big deal at all. The one thing that takes a little bit away from it being perfect, but we're gonna get into that. But yeah, watch Siege and Earthrise, the summary of it, or hey, go back and rewatch them joints. Or if you're new to this and you haven't seen any of the past 2 parts of the trilogy, watch them joints first. Don't just jump into this right away. So either watch the summary if you've already watched them so you could refresh everything, or pick a day and just go bananas, go bonkers, you know what I'm saying? And just watch it all. Watch the whole Siege, the whole Earthrise, and then going right into this Kingdom. And you're going to love it, right? So I'm not really big on doing reviews, so I'm going to make this as spoiler-free as possible, but still informative to really, entice you or let you know that, the joint is as fly as I'm telling you it is, right? So, like I said, the main storyline in this is the search of the Allspark. Where Earthrise left off is where Kingdom begins, and that is searching for the Allspark. The Allspark is the all-encompassing piece of life that is symbiotically connected to Cybertron. Without it, Cybertron dies off, and and the whole future just gets all convoluted and everything like that, right? Now, that's also interesting because the Maximals and the Predacons that's in Kingdom, they have a nice twist. Like I said, they interweave the Allspark story into it so well. Basically, the twist that's a take on them outside of the old Beast Wars Beast Machines story is that due to the lack of the Allspark, they're from a future. They're from the future past the beyond the Autobots and Decepticons. They're from many cycles into the future, right? And they came out of the ashes of the dead Cybertron that died due to the Allspark not being there, because at the end of at the end of Earthrise, is a spoiler if you haven't seen Earthrise, Optimus Prime basically chugs the Allspark out of Cybertron into another dimension, and it goes somewhere on Earth, and then Cybertron was just desolate and destroyed without it. And out of those ashes, basically on some survival of the fittest type of stuff, came the Maximals and the Predacons. And the bulk of this story takes place on Earth, right? Autobots and Decepticons, they crash on prehistoric Earth, just like they did in the original Beast Wars series. But unlike the original Beast Wars series, the interaction between Autobots, Decepticons, Maximals, and Predacons is way more, interwoven and everything like that. It's a beautiful way that they did it. I got my little notes here, right? So, also, a continuing part of the Earthrise story was the interesting perspectives, because both Optimus Prime, the original Optimus Prime, and the original Megatron, they claim that they want to save Cybertron, but in their own form. Megatron wants to do it, with an iron fist and have like all the bots become like automatons under his rule. Optimus Prime just wants them to, be beings living under their own, accord and under their own will, but also in harmony with each other. So there's the struggle between both ideals. However, as you're going to see when you watch the series, there's going to have to be some, I don't want to say, but you'll see it. You'll see them come to an understanding, toward the end of the series. What else should I say? Episode 5, the end of episode 5, you're going to see something that I think is just incredible. It was a very interesting take on the arc. I will just say that, without giving it away. This is something. Now, this is for the real people that really have dug deep into the lore and the canon and the mythology, if you will, right? They do a great job of, now this is for the Beast Wars fans, right, that know about this, right? They do a great job of a scene. There's a scene where they go into the Maximals and Predacons before they crashed on prehistoric Earth, in the search for the golden disc. And it was done so well. Now, this part of the scene, I think they did have it in the original Beast Wars. They had a scene like this, but there was also like a Comic-Con or something where they had some like extra stuff that was never in the Beast Wars cartoon. And it was like about like 10, 20 minutes or something like that of a scene where Megatron, it shows how he came across the golden disc and where he stole it from somewhere, and then they flew off to Earth and everything. They basically rehashed that in this episode. And the reason why I think they did it so well is it was very mysterious, because as you know, they take on beast forms when they crashed on Earth, the Maximals and Predacons. However, when they were on Cybertron, they were mechanical beings. They were not beasts. The beast forms came from them coming to Earth and scanning, the prehistoric dinosaurs and what have you, rhinos and everything that was on Earth, right? Tigers, lions, tigers, and bears, right? So they did a great job, because the way it looked in the old cartoon, when they showed this scene, it was very dark and mysterious. You didn't really get to see their forms. You would just see like the glow of their eyes, and you would see like the shadow of them. And that was a great nod to the old cartoon, or to that Comic-Con thing, or whatever that thing was, that extra footage where they showed that some years back or whatever. So I thought that was fly. Now, this is another interesting thing, right? Speaking of the beast forms, they did a great job. They look so much just like the original forms. Some of them are, what they did? They did a hybrid, because, in the original Beast Wars, a lot of robots, pretty much everyone except Rhinox, ended up getting a trans-metal form, right? Now, this is the interesting thing. When they're in beast form, they look just like they look. They look like animals 100%. They don't look like animal robot hybrids. They look like animals. Optimus Primal looks like the original gorilla. Rat Trap looks like the original rat. Cheetor looks like the original cheater in the first episodes of Beast Wars. However, when they transform into robot form, their robot forms were like a hybrid of their transmetal forms. And I think even Black Arachnia looked a little like her transmetal 2 form, if I'm not mistaken, and a hybrid of their original robot forms when they in the first episodes or whatever. It's a very interesting hybrid of how their robot forms look. I'll just say that. You know what I'm saying? So, be on the lookout for that. What else we got? Yeah, but it looks excellent. The graphics and everything is wonderful. The artwork, everything like that, the sound score, everything else is dope. Now on to the interesting thing that, the reason I give it a 0.5 or a 95 out of, or a 9.5 out of 10, and that's the voices. Just about everyone had a fairly decent or great job with the voice. Now, what I mean by that is the voiceovers sounding like the original Beast Wars counterparts or whatever. Now, who had the very best voice that matched their Beast Wars counterpart? I'm gonna give it to Black Arachnia. She, to me, sounded exactly how she sounded back in the day. I'm guessing they probably even used the same actress to voice her over, right? Now, who had the worst voice? Honestly, it's a tie between Optimus Primal and Beast Wars Megatron and Predacon Megatron. Like both of them, I probably gotta say Megatron. Optimus Primal, his voice, he sounded just like he sounded like a throwback superhero, like that valiant hero of like the 50s or the 60s, where he's just a total good guy and he's just like, fighting for his cause, and there's no like bigger, greater dimension to him or anything. It was kind of corny. I gotta say his voice was kind of corny. Now, Megatron, the Predacon Megatron, he did not sound intimidating like the original Megatron at all, the original Predacon Megatron. Because we all know that the Megatron is supposed to sound more like this. Yes, conniving, but intelligent nonetheless. He has a penchant for intelligent conversation. That's why he talks to himself. Yes. A little more. I could have done a better Megatron, to be honest. You'll check it out. And also, he seemed to suck up to his namesake, or to the original Megatron, just a little too much. But it worked for the story. But I gotta say, Megatron was not as menacing and not as intimidating, Predacon Megatron that is, as he used to be in the old cartoon. However, on the flip side, the original Megatron in this whole trilogy he sounds great, and he sounds very scary. He sounds very confident. He sounds like he's about that business. Like you don't want to mess with that guy or whatever. But Predacon Megatron literally sounds like his son that just looks up to him like he's his hero and everything. And Optimus Primal sounds like a corny superhero. He doesn't sound like anything like the original Optimus Primal. I believe they got the same voice for the original Optimus Prime for this series. So maybe that is why they gave Optimus Primal a more corny type of voice. Because if you remember on Beast Wars, they didn't use the same actor that they traditionally use for Optimus Prime. However, the original Beast Wars Optimus Prime did sound a little bit on the level of traditional Optimus Prime. So maybe they said, well, look, they got to have something that's going to sound way different than the original, since they have the original already there. Voice, that is, I'm guessing. Other than that, Rhinox's voice, it was all right. It was cool. Rat Trap's voice was a little bit good. The Brooklyn, like the old school Brooklyn accent, they didn't nail it quite as well as they did in the original Beast Wars, but it was fairly good. It was, a good and a half, I'll say that, on his way to great. Dinobot was okay. His voice was okay. It lacked a little bit of rasp that the original Dinobot had. Oh, as a side note, the Dinobot, what would you call it? Like the sub-story, the story within a story about Dinobot? Yeah. Reminiscent on how his story was in the original Beast Wars. I'll just say that. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be emotional. Did Megatron. Tigatron's actually in this series. His voice was okay. But Black Arachnia, I'm going to look it up after this. I should have looked it up before. But I'm going to see if Black Arachnia's voice is the exact same voice. And I'll reply somewhere in the comments, or maybe even in the description. Because she sounded spot on. She was great. Black Arachnia was great. And those are the, the standout characters that I see or whatever. So, yeah, check it out. It's 6 episodes, just like the other ones, just like War for Cybertron Siege and War for Cybertron Earthrise was. So in total, it's 18 episodes. So if you haven't watched it, get yourself some free time. Give it a whole day and just let the whole thing rock. Again, if you have watched it, at the very least, watch a recap, because the story, it gets very intense. Unicron's in it, Galvatron's in it, Nemesis Prime is in it, without giving away too much. So it gets very interwoven. It gets very complicated. Things get very complicated, but it's still easy to follow along if you're like me and you're just glued to the screen while you're watching it. You know what I'm saying? You can even see from the trailer. I think you can see Nemesis Prime up in there. So I'm Tone Space again. I think I covered everything. Check it out. It just dropped. It's on Netflix right now. Go watch that joint. I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. Let me know what you think about it, down below. All right?